Historically, successful seizures of power, the BY vassal princes were extremely rare, especially in the early years of a dynasty that when the people were united. However, Zhu Di defied this rule and led his army into Nanjing. Surprisingly, when he finally ascended the throne, instead of jubilation, he wept bitterly, holding a will. In other dynasties, emperors often faced difficult decisions that when choosing an heir, especially when they had many sons, any choice would inevitably spark dissatisfaction that among the other princes. For example, Li Shimin of the Tang dynasty, in a power struggle with Crown Prince Li Jianqing, launched the Xuanwu Gate incident, a bloody incident in the palace. The late Qing dynasty also saw a brutal struggle that among 9 princes for the throne. However, at the founding of the Ming dynasty, Zhu Yuanzhang faced no such dilemma. Born into poverty and a former beggar, this emperor had experienced many hardships and had no superstition about immortality. To ensure the stability of his dynasty, he began planning for a successor early on. Common sense would have suggested that the most suitable candidate was his eldest son, Zhu Biao. Although Zhu Biao never personally fought on the battlefield, he had lived through turbulent times with his father from a young age, accumulating rich experience. He was well versed in classics and history, and whenever Zhu Yuanzhang faced significant uncertainty, he offered insightful advice. After the establishment of the Ming dynasty, Zhu Yuanzhang, due to his limited education, asked Zhu Biao to assist in government affairs. As the eldest brother, he also took the initiative to care for his younger siblings. Furthermore, his generosity and kindness made him the undisputed heir to the throne, judging by his seniority, ability, and virtue. Therefore, Zhu Yuanzhang laid out a long-term plan. Zhu Biao was ordered to remain in the capital, participating in government affairs, and gaining experience in governance. Meanwhile, his other sons were appointed to frontier states, granted military power, and became vassal kings to defend their respective regions. With the external threat resolved, internal conflicts began to surface. Perhaps even Zhu Yuanzhang himself could not have anticipated the untimely death of his carefully selected successor. Zhu Biao's sudden passing completely disrupted his entire plan. Perhaps Zhu Di never imagined that his brother's death would entangle him in the turbulent tides of fate. After Zhu Biao's death, Zhu Yuanzhang was devastated and unable to govern for several days. But reality forbade wallowing in grief. The dynasty needed a new ruler. Who should he choose next? According to the tradition of selecting the eldest son over the youngest, the second son, Zhu Chong, should have been the first choice. He was stationed in Xi'an at the time, had a close relationship with Zhu Biao, and was a distinguished military talent. Even Zhu Di, later renowned for his military prowess, pales in comparison. However, Zhu Yuanzhang ultimately chose Zhu Chong. Zhu Chong's strong character and harsh rule instilled fear in his subordinates. Furthermore, court officials worried that he might become a tyrannical ruler if he ascended the throne. So, was his third son, Zhu Gang, a viable choice? He lacked military leadership, statecraft, and even basic benevolence. Looking around at his sons, only the fourth son, Zhu Di, showed thoughtfulness and the bearing of an emperor. But could Zhu Yuanzhang bypass his older brother and appoint Zhu Di as the heir? Clearly not. Such a move would inevitably provoke strong opposition from Zhu Chong and Zhu Gang, especially since both held significant military power. A conflict could, at best, destabilize the court and, at worst, divide the empire. At the time, Zhu Biao's eldest son, Zhu Yunwen, was young, gentle, well-read, and of sterling character, making him considered an ideal heir. More importantly, appointing a grandson as heir made it difficult for the other princes, even if they felt reluctant, to openly oppose it. Therefore, after Zhu Biao's funeral, Zhu Yuanzhang immediately declared Zhu Yunwen the heir to the throne and began to eliminate the influence of his old ministers who might threaten his rule. This directly triggered the Lan Yu case, which shocked the court and the nation, and completely eliminated all disobedient officials. As an emperor, paving the way for his grandchildren to this point, Zhu Yuanzhang can be considered one of the most attentive grandfathers in history. However, precisely because of this overprotective approach, Zhu Yunwen never truly experienced the workings of power during his childhood, lacking the ability to navigate the complexities of politics. When Zhu Yuanzhang died and he ascended the throne, his governance was naive and inexperienced. Historically, the key challenge for a new emperor was to reduce the power of the vassal states. The usual approach was to stabilize the vassal states first, consolidating their foundation, and then gradually proceed. However, Zhu Yunwen was impatient for success, and regardless of his own unstable power, he rashly issued an order to reduce the power of the vassal states. With Zhu Chong already dead, Zhu Di naturally became the primary target. Zhu Di had not anticipated that even from his remote northern border, he would still be unable to escape the maelstrom of imperial power. Soon, Zhu Yunwen dispatched the Genii Wei to monitor and investigate. This secret service, personally established by Zhu Yuanzhang, possessed the power to execute without trial, making the vassal states feel insecure. To protect himself, Zhu Di was forced to feign insanity, wrapping himself in quilts in the summer, eating ice in the winter, and even sleeping in a pigsty at night, all to obscure the court's eyes and ears. So, he patiently waited for his turn, secretly excavating a chamber beneath his mansion to forge weapons and sew armor. When the time was right, he led his army north, coercing Prince Ning into joining the rebellion, thus officially launching the Jingnan campaign. After 4 years of bloody fighting, the army advanced southward, finally breaching the gates of Nanjing and entering the imperial palace. Soon after, a confidant discovered a charred body in the palace, believed to be the remains of Zhu Yunwan. Zhu Di vaguely remembered holding his nephew Dai in his arms as an infant, but he had never imagined the tragic outcome.